Here we are, and Happy New Year.
Hi, friend.
Season 2, Episode
Yes.
1. We are here and doing this. Welcome to Southern Sober and Sassy Sisters. Sisters.
Sucker. Sisters. Yeah.
You and your sucker.
Sucker.
So, today, we're live from Kristy. This is gonna be, I think, the podcast room.
I think it's going to be the podcast room.
You see the plant, she's a plant lady.
I'm crazy plant lady.
Crazy plant lady.
I am.
We got lots of faith around us too with the crosses.
We
Lots
do.
of grace and faith.
Grace and faith. Lots of grace.
Ridiculous grace.
It
How
is.
did you come up with that?
It is actually from a song that I heard, and it's talking about. It's going to make me cry. Good Lord. We're starting
That's
off
okay.
right.
That's
I
okay.
cry a lot, y'all.
She's allowed to cry.
If I don't cry, then you know what, I'm not right. That I am fully known and still loved by Him. And it is it's ridiculous grace because I had so many secrets that only I knew that were deep and dark and black. And they had to come out of me in order to get sober, and I got them out, and I was forgiven. And grace is when He gives me what I don't deserve, and He gave me sobriety and peace of mind when I don't deserve it. And I know today so that's why it's ridiculous. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And He chose me anyway. And I need to act like it, and I need to be a light in a dark world. And that's why I make ridiculous grace signs.
I love that. And by the way, I'm telling you, we are going to, not this episode, but I think it's important because Kristy does a lot of artwork. That is what it's part of who she is. And I think it's important for you she can offer you guys artwork. So we'll do a podcast on that in the next few weeks for sure. And she can share what she does. And that may be something you're interested in purchasing.
Yeah.
So today, I'm a reader, as always, and I got a book by Erwin Lutzer, and it's called The Power of a Clear Conscience. So, it's called Let God Free You from Your Past. But what stood out to me is he references addiction in this book. And that's why we're here. We want to talk to people about, yes, we're Southern. Yes, we are sassy. But we're more importantly sober. And not just sober, but in recovery. Sober, anybody can go get sober for 24 hours. You just don't drink.
That is true. And something else, too, that I think is so crucial is you don't have to be a saint in order to get it or keep it.
No.
And now I have to act half right. I can't use that as a crutch. I can't use that statement as a crutch, and I can't use it as an excuse. But I don't have to be a saint all the time to still have sobriety and grace and for God to work in my life. That's such good news.
It is.
Because I'm sassy. Sucker. And so are you. And we're like double sassy together.
Yes.
So.
And I think that brings a good point because, sanity and sobriety go hand in hand. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have a little sass sometimes. And it sure as heck doesn't mean we're saints. We are all saints and sinners.
Yep.
All of us, and I think it's important too that to be a saint doesn't mean we're perfect. There's nobody perfect on this earth.
Right.
And so I think it's also keeping in the forefront for me is knowing that it's about progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
That helps with my conscience.
Perfection equals pressure.
It equals pride.
It does equal pride, but it also equals pressure. It's so much pressure on myself and like on my coworkers and on my children. Like you'll see perfectionist parents
Mm-hmm.
put that kind of pressure on their child to do better, do better, do better. You got to do it right. Do it again, do it again, you know. And it's you got to give yourself some wiggle room, you know, and God gives us wiggle room, you know, but if I have to learn from the mistake and try and change it and move forward. Otherwise, it is a repeated pattern.
Yeah, it's that behavior that creeps up, and it will take you down.
Yep.
That strive for perfection. It is the preamble to the fall.
Yep. You are correct. Well, and we wear ourselves out too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that perfectionism.
Yeah.
So today, in this book, the characteristics of addiction. And just like ridiculous grace. First, I want to emphasize the need for grace. Addicts don't need more guilt heaped onto them. They already fear and bear the weight of condemnation. And number two, we are all prone to be addicts. Number three is grace does not enter a closed door. And number four, addiction and has many causes. Addiction is an illusionary promise creating a world of escape. Myself, an active addiction, entered into a world of pleasurable sensations. A promise like a God, but in the end, it pays like a devil. Fifth is there are many different matches that set fire to our addiction. So I think the biggest one that stood out for me, and that's why I brought this, and I thought about your ridiculous grace, is grace does not enter closed doors. So I think talking about how that closed door when we're in active addiction, closing it off to everyone except for ourselves. And we tell people, well, I told people I'm not hurting anybody. It's just I'm hurting myself. Mm-hmm. And it was because I was closed off. And that closed door was there for over 20 years.
Well, I had not only a closed door, but I had brick walls of concrete and then chains around the concrete and then padlocks on the chains, and it just stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked, and of course it was stacked all the way up. And you know, I come into the program of recovery, and truth, it was like this big huge ball came in and just went bam up against some of those bricks, and it broke some of those bricks off. Mm-hmm. And to where I could like peek up over my brick wall, you know, and see that there was something better out there, and then I would go back behind the brick wall, and then, you know, with each step that I did, a padlock was taken off, and a couple more bricks came down. Mm-hmm. To where it was about halfway.
Right.
But that was still so much of my comfort zone that, thank God, it didn't happen all at once, because I wouldn't have been able to handle it, you know. So it was just brick by brick by brick, they went away. But I also had my little safety zone, you know, that with more of the bricks that came down, the more light that shone in. So the light, I started off in all darkness, but the more light that came in, it it gave me more hope that this could really happen for me. And then I would stop and I'd go over there and I'd pick some bricks up and I'd put them back on there and start building that wall up per the person that walked in the door. Oh, here comes this person. I got to put my bricks back up, And, oh, well, here comes this person. Oh, well, I'm okay. I don't have to put my bricks up. And then it got to the point that with the more steps that I did, that all of those bricks were gone, but I still had pebbles.
Because you was building the pebbles.
Right. I still have those pebbles. And what are steps 10, 11, and 12? They're maintenance steps to make sure that those pebbles don't turn into rocks.
Yes.
And that I'm building it back up, The beautiful, wonderful thing now, and I'm always going to have pebbles, but they're little and they're small and they're manageable. But the beautiful thing is that, oh, it's going to make me cry. I am neutral, safe, and protected regardless of who walks in the door now. I am the same regardless of who is standing in front of me. If my old boss comes in, if my child comes in, if my ex-husband comes in, I don't tense up. I don't change. My personality doesn't change anymore. The brick wall doesn't have to go up. I'm good with whoever is standing in front of me. Oh my gosh. That is huge. I'm okay because I know that I'm living 100% in that light now, well, for the most part.
Yeah. I think of that when you talk about the brick wall and being like inside. It reminds me of Miley Cyrus's song, The Wrecking Ball.
Yeah.
Because for me, I had to have that wrecking ball of recovery. And it was my recovery ball. How about that? But it was a wrecking ball because it came and slammed through my addiction. I had something so intensively severe to knock my ass back into reality and learn about recovery.
Yep.
So my recovery started with the big wrecking ball. It came through my addiction, and that's what I needed. And it left me so like bare, like exposed, and the exposure is what I needed, because for me, and just my thinking, my personality, it's like we have got to have a clear path so that we can get to you. And I say we, that's all of the people that I was letting in, so we can start the work. And so the wrecking ball came, that lovely intervention. The wrecking ball came and knocked me and not exposed me, but I needed to be exposed because I was so sick in my secrets.
Yeah.
Oh. Those secrets kept me sick. And even today, what I'm most grateful for when we talk about grace, can't get through and cannot enter through closed doors, is I'm still teachable.
Yeah. There's a saying, how much time do you have? How much sober time do you have?
I have 14 years.
Okay.
I would say I have 15 years in 2 months. And Nancy, sponsor lady. No, you have 14 years, Amy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, at 14 and 16. So, one of the things that, I fell in love with recovery. after the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do the damn work. And that's just all there is to it. You got to do the damn work.
Absolutely.
It's worth it. If it wasn't, I'd go freaking drink and use. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you have worked in recovery for a long time. I've worked in recovery for a long time. And we read a lot and blah, 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 blah. But I have learned that the more I know, the less I know. And there's that teachable part, because the more that we work in the program of recovery, it's like, I've never seen that before. What do I do, boss man? Hey, boss, I'm in a situation. What do I do with this? You know, or I call you, and I'm like, dude, this is what is going down. What do I do? I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. When I'm in the moment and I'm trying to help someone and I'm on an intervention, you know, I don't have to do that. It's not about me. It is about them. Yeah. It is about that grace getting through to that blocked door. It's going to make me cry. And I am going to call in my army of help to open that door of grace at all cost. I am going to step back and say, I need guidance. I need help. How can she's got the door closed. He's got the door closed. You know, I got to get him to treatment, man. You're going to die, you know, or whatever. And I am still humble enough that I will call in for help and say, how can I get this door opened just a little bit more? Give me some of your experience, strength, and hope, because I'm at a closed door right now. Mm-hmm. I'm close to getting it open, you know. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and it takes power. And when I say power, I mean God's power. It takes power to push that door open to get to that tiny little bitty seed of faith. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going for. That's where I'm at. And the devil has her, you know, on lockdown. And it's like, we're not going to let the devil win, you know. And so to have that teachable attitude, to not only get grace for myself, but for others, because I'm a channel of that grace. I'm a channel of that source. And sometimes it takes a village, and sometimes it takes an army to push that door open. But we're going to get that door open.
Absolutely.
You know, because she deserves grace. He deserves grace. And they, you know,
and they don't think consciously and even subconsciously, they don't believe they deserve it.
That's correct. But we know they do.
Exactly. And most of the time, the families do. They do, but when push comes to shove, they don't.
That's correct. And with all due respect to family members, they're in a crisis situation.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
The family needs to be set aside sometimes, because they don't understand addiction. They don't understand it.
No, because they have an addiction too.
Right.
And even though they're projecting all the addiction on their loved one, they're just as sick. So they have to step back, like you said. That's great. They have to step back, let you step in front of them, lead them through the way, you know, and a lot of times they don't want anybody, they know best. And it's like, you do know your loved one better than myself, but I know the disease.
Right. You know, and that you have brought up such a good point because the disease of addiction is ruthless. The disease of addiction is so mean. And sometimes you have to get down in the ditches and talk to them on their own level in order for them to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have people in recovery talk to me on a hardcore level in order for me to hear them. And it was just the hardcore truth, and they were able to, they were the initial wrecking ball.
Yeah.
They put a crack in it.
Yeah.
Just enough for a couple of pieces to crumble.
So you could peek out.
Right. So you could peek out for that light to come in through that hole.
Absolutely.
And it's like, girl, just let me snatch you up. Just trust me and let's go. And the family, when that happens, the family, they just cry and and that's wonderful, but these families don't understand how we think. Our thinking is so twisted. Our hearts are on such lockdown, man, that it's like, I know that you are a beautiful, wonderful person in there, and that you yearn to be better, but you just get knocked down, knocked down, knocked down, knocked down. You're trapped. You feel trapped. I understand that part. The family can't understand that part. Why do they keep doing it? Why do they keep doing it? Why do they keep doing it? That's the golden question.
And that's when you're talking about the family and they just can't understand why the heart is on lockdown. It's like Dr. Gabor Mate talks about it. He's like, addiction is not a substance abuse. It's not a substance abuse issue. It's an intimacy lack of issue. And intimacy is not just about sex. Intimacy is about the core of relationships, friendships, family, colleagues. And that is intimacy. And having, that's why after COVID, everybody was on lockdown. And that's why untreated mental health went crazy. And so did addiction, because people are used to being around people. Mm-hmm. They want unity and community.
Yep.
Finding your vibe tribe. Knowing that there are like-minded people that have been through, maybe not the whole 100% same, but more similarities than not, of what you went through. And that wrecking ball of recovery, if we truly allow that wrecking ball to come in and knock the addiction, it will open up, like you said, for us to be able to peek out, see that light, and be given that planted seed of faith. Because when we get to see the light, it's a game changer.
It is.
You see the light, but you see other people that have the light.
That's correct. And it was the other people that kept me coming back in the beginning. The other people were very believable. Now, not everyone in recovery is believable.
Oh, girl, I know.
Okay. It's believable full of shit. But there are other people, in recovery that are very believable. And the light is very magnetic. You can sit in a room of AA and NA and feel the magnetic power of someone who has what you want.
And I've sat in the room of CODA and ACOA and Al-Anon. And that gut, I think it's from being an addict and an alcoholic. It's just having that, of course, I didn't trust anybody. I mean, but even in recovery, it was a slow boat to China trusting people. But the longer, Lord willing, God willing, today, just for today, I am sober. That gut instinct is so defined, and you just know.
Yeah.
You just hear them, you see them, and you just know.
You can tell who's full of shit and who's genuine.
Yeah.
You can. And the lighter the more light that you get in your life, this is one of those things where be careful what you pray for, you just might get it.
Mm-hmm.
In a beautiful, wonderful way. I mean, when you step out into the light and you're there and you stay there, because it's going to take spiritual warfare before you get to that light, because the devil wants me back, and it's going to take some determination and gritting my teeth to stay in that light. But it is, I know that when I'm in that light, that God or my higher power is going to let me know where there is darkness, because light and dark don't mix. And so it's like I can just be walking around. I thought people were crazy when they were like, God said this and God told me that, and then I was like, that's a bunch of religious crazy crap, in which I don't mean any disrespect. This is just my story and how I thought about that. Well, now I'm so tapped in, that it's true. I have that intuition, and God will let me know. When I'm living in the light, God will let me know where there is discord. You can walk into a room and feel that discord in a chair. You can feel it. I want to say this real quick before I forget it. And going back to why do we do it? Why do we do it? Why do we do it? The big book says that we do it to change the way that we feel. The 12 steps digs into, well, why don't you like the way that you feel? And it puts you in a point at the end of the 12 steps where you like the way that you feel. Therefore, you don't have to reach out for anything to change the way that you feel. Anyway, in early recovery, people in the rooms would say for me what I was not willing to say for myself. Curiosity kept me coming back. Curiosity is very powerful. Whatever it takes to get me to come back, I'm very thankful for that. And curiosity kept me coming back. But there was a pharmacist, very successful man, very well known, prominent pharmacist in our town.
Uh-huh.
And I will never, and he had a lot of sobriety. And I will never forget the day he sat there. He said it with such power. He said, I feel inadequate. And I sat there and I looked at that man and I was like, the word inadequate is a very heavy duty word. And he said for me what I didn't know that I felt or that I could say. And I was like, that's it. I have felt inadequate my whole life. Unstable, insecure, but inadequate was just the word. I had that rooted deep in me in addiction. I'm just inadequate. It's a lie from the pit of hell. It's a lie. And now I'm adequate.
Yeah.
I'm safe. I'm stable. I am secure. And I will not be shaken.
And that is the beauty of recovery. But I think, when I was reading this book, I think what's so powerful is when it talks, when Mr. Lutzer says the power of a clear conscience, and it says, let God free you from your past. If I have a clear conscience, then I'm going to be able to have that gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
When I have a clear conscience, I'm going to be able to feel what's going on, whether it's good, bad, right, wrong around me, because I don't have the heavy burden of shame and guilt, and not having that paranoia of, are they saying something about me? What are people saying? What are people doing? Are they looking at me? And it's, it's not paranoia either. It's my ego. People don't give a rat's It ain't about me. Why am I going to be fearful of saying something that I feel led to say? Why? What's going to hold me back? My ego. Mm-hmm. Or why would I say something that probably has nothing to do with anything? Why would I say it? My ego. Mm-hmm. So if I have that clear conscience, that allows me to listen, those 2 ears, 1 mouth, but it allows me to listen. And if I feel in my gut, my instinct that I can bring something to the table, great. Or if I feel I need to get something, off of my chest to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Because those meetings, we're all there for each other, but I'm there for me too. Mm-hmm. Y'all are all there for me. Mm-hmm. And I said that a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, I'm just grateful to be here because I'm grateful you all are here. Because if you weren't here, I couldn't be here.
Right.
And that's not being selfish. That is being thankful and grateful mm-hmm. that people are there and willing to show up for a meeting.
I either feed or I need to be fed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I am my cup overflows every day, all the time, for the most part. But there are times, and when I am full, then I help to feed others with that. But there are times that you're full of the light, and I'm weak or I'm tired, and I need to be fed. And so it's give and take and give and take and give and take, but the main thing in sobriety is to know when my cup is starting to get a little bit low, and to keyword is let other people help me and be teachable to fill my cup back up. Yeah. And not stay dry and bone dry. I know better. And it is, I will still do whatever it takes to stay sober. That willingness has not gone anywhere.
We talked about that the other night, about the peace. Like, I cannot allow my peace to be stolen. And I appreciate that about you, because there have been times, even recently, that my peace was stolen because of this delusional thinking up here. And why did I have delusional thinking? Because I didn't have a clear conscience. And that doesn't mean I did necessarily anything wrong, but I wasn't doing what I needed to do. I had started lacking in my devotions. I was also trying to control other people. Trying to control maybe their recovery. They may not be in recovery, but just trying to control that piece. And I fell out. And it was like, that tailspin of not having a clear conscience. And again, a clear conscience is not that we've done something wrong. A clear conscience is, am I doing everything I can to keep my ass sober? Mm-hmm. But not just sober, but living the way I'm supposed to be living.
The beautiful, wonderful thing, she brought up something so cool, is, she went through a month or two where she was a little bit off whack. Uh-huh. And she fell off. Yeah. And I'm not her sponsor. But
you could be though.
But I know my friend very well. Okay? And the cool thing about people in recovery is I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to drag your ass back on the path, and I'm going to let you lay on the path. I'm going to get you back on the path, and I'll stand there and I'll be like, I know it's rough, but you're at least back on the path. And I am not leaving. Don't even think about. I don't expect you to stand up. I don't expect you to sit up. But you ain't getting off that damn path. That's love. That is a devotion to people in recovery that I never had before. And that is friends moving in on me saying, look, homegirl, I love you, but you've gotten off the path and I'm putting you back on the path. And
you're in timeout on the path.
You're in timeout on the path. You are correct. But your ass is on the path.
And so now, because in recovery, you're right, it's different. The friendships are different.
It's deeper. It holds more depth and weight.
Yeah, because, I'm going to put you on the path. I'm going to check on you. I'm not going to hover over you, but I'm going to check on you. And I have girlfriends that I've been friends with for, God, 40 plus years. And it's like, how are you? Great. Okay. I'll talk to you later. And it's because that self-centered, selfish piece of all of us that we can have is we're so busy with ourselves, we don't have time to worry about anybody else. And that's the one big thing I've learned in recovery is getting out of myself, because if I stay in myself, I'm not going to be able to do shit for nobody because I'm so self-absorbed. And so when you get snatched back onto the path, it's like, oh my God, yes, okay, my eyes are back open.
Right.
Because they were a little dim, they were a little foggy.
Well, and so much too is, at that point in time, let's say that you're in timeout on the path, and I'll be like, yo, friend, what's going on? And you rattle off 20 things. Well, I can sit there because we can have insane thinking sober. Okay?
That's a fact, Jack.
And so I can sit there on the path with you and say, all right, you just rattled off 20 things. 7 of them are real. 7 of them are shit that is valid and that we need to talk about. And they're true, and all the other 13, it's just they're crap. So we're gonna get rid of those, and that's just, it is so relieving that I can come to a friend in recovery and say, let me tell you about this cockamamie story I got going on in my brain, and you tell me what's real and what's not. Okay, I can't say that to a normal person.
I can't say that. No.
I cannot say that to a normal person.
This is what's going on. They're going to say, okay, we need to call the behavioral. And
right.
y'all need to go.
Girl, you jacked up. But, so much of it is when I go through life on life's terms, here come all the squirrels. And I start feeding the squirrels, and the squirrels have babies, and then the cousins come in, and then, and I've got this family of squirrels, and it's like, dude, I know that squirrel brain is a part of it, and I'm going to have 1 or 2 squirrels running around up there, but when I have 20, that's when I need a good friend that comes in and says, okay, they need to move out, and me and you are we're going to get right here. And we're going to get back to what is the real deal? What is going on with just you? Because it's not them.
It's always
It's not them. A good friend of mine, Tammy Lawrence, we'll get her on the show one day. She's been a discharge planner for years and years, and you walk into her office, there's just, it's typical office. There's just stuff everywhere. And she has this pink piece of paper that sits right there on her computer. You can't miss it. And in all caps, it says, it's not them. So, anyway, it's still, the beautiful, wonderful thing is that Sometimes I walk with purpose on the path. And sometimes I am dragged by my friends. But I ain't getting off the path. And that's the bottom line. And that is the beautiful, wonderful grace that God gives me and that my friends give me.
Because you have the door. It may be just cracked.
That's correct.
But your door is accessible for grace.
That is correct. And that door's not closing ever again. And that ball is in my court. Now, God has all power, and it's all good in the hood with him. My door is wide open. However, I can't use that as an excuse to go over here and act like a darn fool and be like, oh, well, I'm going to go over here and do a couple things I don't need to do, and then the ball is still in my court.
Yeah.
To continue to do my part, make progress.
Yes.
And not use grace to not take advantage of a good thing.
Yeah.
To not take advantage of a good thing. And,
I love what you're talking about, Tammy, about her thing. It's not them. The power of a clear conscience. Everything that we've talked about today is about that clear conscience.
Yep.
It's all circled back to that.
Yep. And to make sure that you are very aware of who's in your circle.
Yeah.
And keep that circle little.
The hula hoop.
The hula hoop.
Whoever fits in your hula hoop, that's okay.
You are the company you keep.
And sometimes you got to remove the people from the hula hoop.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yep.
All right, my dear. The power of a clear conscience. High five. And we appreciate y'all. Season 2.
We'll see you next time.
That's right. Bye.
How did that do the balloon?